Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have this opportunity to say a few words at your conference and can only apologise for the fact that I'm doing so in this rather disembodied form. But at least it has a few advantages from the point of view of my carbon footprint. Now, you may well wonder why Richard Bennett has very kindly invited me to say a few words, particularly when matters of investment are not exactly my speciality. But I have for many years been increasingly concerned that we are damaging and over-consuming the planet's natural capital, on which we all, but particularly our children and grandchildren, depend for our prosperity and indeed survival. Experts tell me that even with over 1 billion people with no access to drinkable water and living on less than $1 a day, we are consuming every year 50% more of the planet's natural resources than it can renew. And remarkably, we are depleting and destroying this wonderful asset with little idea of the economic consequences. This is in no small part because the cost of consuming and damaging the planet, probably the most significant cost we incur, has not actually been taken into account fully and consistently in accounting and investment decision-making systems. Now, I need hardly say that I am particularly pleased to have the chance to talk to you because many of you, through your work for public sector pension funds, have a real interest in the long-term sustainability of our planet and the economic prosperity which derives from it. I say this because the global challenges that face us require, perhaps as never before, a truly long-term focus. Human history has always been a pattern of challenge and crisis, and of resolution and opportunity. But never before has mankind had the capacity to change the planet and its ecosystems so that they can no longer provide a home and life support system for us, or at least for so many of us, along with a whole host of other species with which we share this earth and on which we also depend for our survival. Our capacity to threaten human existence began most clearly in the military sphere with the development of nuclear weapons, but it is now becoming clear that more domestic and apparently benign behavior, such as the way we act and do business in our daily lives, is threatening our long-term survival. To put it in economic terms, with 6.8 billion people in the world, rapidly rising to 9 billion in the near future, the old take, make and waste approach to doing business is no longer feasible, in the long term at least. There are people who deny that we are facing these issues, who say, for example, that climate change is not man-made, but a hoax, and who believe that human technological ingenuity will come up with new sources of energy, and who therefore think that we can continue with business as usual. However, I cannot help but feel that this is a high-risk strategy. Most people would not take the risk of not insuring their house against fire and flood, even though the odds are low. But those who deny the long-term effects of overconsumption of natural resources and climate change and fail to take precautionary action are taking a far greater risk with a far greater chance of ultimate catastrophe. Most companies are now required to undertake risk assessments and to confirm that they have done so in their annual reports. And risk assessment and mitigation are constant features in our daily lives, with the introduction of a range of health and safety, child protection, and other similar measures. However, the greatest risks that we face seem to be largely disregarded in practical terms, perhaps because their magnitude makes them difficult to grasp. And there is a real chance that the world will be frozen into futile inaction as a result of skeptics who argue that the wide range of uncertainty about, for example, future temperature changes lowers the need to act. Perhaps we need to ask ourselves, or accountants and economists need to ask themselves what the unnecessarily incurred cost of lowering global CO2 emissions would be if the climate change skeptics are proved to be right. I'm told that the cost would be roughly equal to foregoing, once in a lifetime, 6 months to 1 year's global growth. In other words, a once-off loss of growth of around 2 to 4%. Furthermore, even in the unlikely event, according to the large majority of scientists, that climate change is shown not to be man-made, the benefits of taking precautionary action are considerable. They include energy independence from the Middle East, more jobs, since wind and solar power are more labour-intensive than coal-fired power plants, and less pollution of water and air, as well as the potential for an early leadership role for the United States, although leadership is now being rapidly lost to others who have spotted the way forward in industries that will inevitably become important. Conversely, the costs of not taking preventative action could be vast and potentially uncontrollable, resulting in political and economic destabilization from droughts and famine, mass migrations, and even war. Well, I established my Accounting for Sustainability project back in 2004 to help address these issues: the failure to value and price natural capital, the narrowness and retrospective emphasis of most accounting information, and the disproportionate focus by business and investors on the short term. In other words, to ensure that we are counting everything that counts, and that sustainability, in other words, considering what we do not only in terms of ourselves and today, but also of others and tomorrow, is not just talked and worried about, but becomes embedded in the DNA of organizations and our global economy. My Accounting for Sustainability project has therefore been working to develop the practical tools and approaches needed. Firstly, by suggesting how sustainability can be taken into account more effectively in day-to-day operations, and secondly, by developing a new approach to reporting, an approach that reflects the interconnected impact of financial, environmental, and social factors on organizations' long-term performance. We call this approach integrated reporting. In 2010, my Accounting for Sustainability project, in collaboration with the Global Reporting Initiative and the International Federation of Accountants, established the International Integrated Reporting Committee. Its membership represents a powerful cross-section of the corporate, investment, accounting, securities, regulatory, and standard-setting sectors. And its objective is to instigate the creation of a global system for integrated reporting. Corporate reporting and related accounting and decision-making systems matter. They matter because information is power, and because we will not make the right decisions unless we have the right information on which to base them. There is a growing international consensus that the present system of corporate and indeed governmental accounting and reporting is not fit for purpose. However, the trouble is that time is not on our side. It has taken over 100 years for financial accounting and reporting to be standardized on something approaching an internationally consistent basis. And I'm afraid we simply cannot afford to take even 10% of this time to do the same with integrated reporting. This is why the International Integrated Reporting Committee is working so urgently to provide the clear, concise, and comprehensive information needed to support you in making the important investment decisions that will affect all our long-term futures. Those of you, ladies and gentlemen, who work in the pensions industry have, in particular, the influence and financial capacity to address and mitigate the global risks to which I have referred. And if I may say so, it is essential that you use this influence and capacity to do so. Make no mistake, the decisions that investors and businesses take in the next few years will have a cumulative effect upon humanity's ability to survive in the long term. If we do not make the right decisions now, we will effectively lock our children and grandchildren into a very grim future and throw away the key. As the Native American proverb says, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Now, I'm not quite sure who will hold the deniers and the naysayers accountable at the end of the day, and how it will be done, if they are proved not to be right, and if the world is tested to destruction as part of the gigantic experiment we are currently carrying out. However, I am sure that precautionary and preventative actions are urgently needed, and that if we do not take them, those who come after will never, never forgive us. It is for this reason that I am so grateful to have had the chance to convey these few words today, and I can only pray that your discussions will be an important and practical step in addressing the daunting challenges which confront us.